So this is what a general load chart, forklift load chart looks like. So normally every forklift load chart will have a number of axes. So we'll have the vertical axis, normally depicting the height at which we are taking the load, and also we'll have an horizontal axis which will be depicting the load center of the load that the forklift has picked. Then we'll have the curved lines or certain graphs going on that chart, which determines or tells us the capacity at which the capacity that the forklift can pick at certain configurations. And some forklift load charts indicate the attachment for which that chart or graph is represented. So how do we read our forklift load chart? So to read our forklift load charts accurately, first and foremost, measure the load center of the forklift. What is the load center of the forklift? The load center of the forklift is the distance from the face of the forks from the carriage to the center of gravity of the load that you are picking. This load center we can have one load that can have different load centers based on how we pick it up. So for instance, let's say we have a rectangular object that we are trying to pick up. If we should pick the rectangular object from the width, the breadth, the short side of it, we are going to have a shorter load center. If we should decide to pick that same object along the length of that same object, then the load center is going to be greater. So how forklift operators pick their loads affects the load center. The next thing we have to consider in determining the capacity of our forklift is the lift height, how high we are taking our load. So based on, let's say you are working in a warehouse and you are having pallets or you are having racks at a different height, the height at which you are taking the load is going to be a factor that you have to consider. So based on the rack or the height at which you are taking, you consider that, and after determining these two things, you come and correspond the values. Where the two values intersect is going to be the capacity of our forklift. What do I mean? So for instance, if you have a forklift load chart like this, where we are having load centers 500 mm, 600 mm, 700 mm, and we are having over here on the vertical axis, we are having on this time around our heights are being represented on the graphs, on the curves, and we are having the capacities being the graduations on the vertical axis. Now over here, so for instance, let's say that the load I'm picking has a load center of 600 mm, and we are going to a height of, let's say, 3 meters. At a height of load center of 600 mm and a height of 3 meters, that is it. When this is when the two points intersect. When we come back to the capacity chart, we see that our capacity will be somewhere around 1,800 thereabout. That's how we read the load chart.